Hey, good morning, Justice Warriors. How are you guys? Thank you so much for joining me. I got my bunny rabbits, I got my ironing board. I think we're good to go. I even got my genie lamp. So I'm having fun with the little set designs, but what's more important is how are you guys? Everything I say in my videos is simply my opinion. I'm hoping to start a conversation, hoping to have an intelligent discussion and show off some of my cool jewelry. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. And hoping that things that I say and that you guys share are educational and that we can all learn something together. So, really, my videos are made specifically for YouTube. And as we all know, YouTube is an entertainment platform. So, good morning, Bluestone and Sherry, Annie Ruler, Mrs. Amir Zaza, and Squirrely Burger. So, you guys, Ashley Banfield has done it again with the sources close to the case. So, you have probably heard if you've turned on your YouTube at all, because I think Harsh did one and Evil Exists did one. Ashley Banfield, of course, did one, and I'm sure a handful of others. But basically, she's saying that Mr. Koberger liked a bunch of things on one of the deceased Instagram page or, one of those social media platforms. Not only did he like, he had screenshots. So it kind of scared me. I was like, man, we better be careful what we like and what we screenshot. I mean, seriously, it does make him look bad if that's true. But at the same time, so many of us are on social media liking everything and taking screenshots of everything, right? So, God forbid that somebody that you took a screenshot of and that you liked their stuff, something horrible happens to them and you're going to be suspect. Yeah, right. Give me a break. That's, the circumstantial evidence is so flimsy. And yeah, the optics look bad, but we're not dealing with optics. We're trying to deal with reality. So the optics are what make or break a case in public opinion, but what makes or breaks a case in the courtroom is what really matters. So, things can look really bad, especially if you got, I'll just say it, professionals framing you. So I'm not saying that that's what's going on. It has happened in the past, and I'm sure it will happen again. Didn't you love the interview with the Emmy in the corner, Squirrely Burger? You nailed it. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was just like, oh, that just happens to be placed about as neatly as my little iron, right? And it is the cutest iron here. Let me just show it off because it's got a little heart. Do you see the little heart emblem in the bottom of it? I mean, come on. Anyway, that's Miami, right? Yeah. And it was really pathetic because that guy, that journalist, if that's what he calls himself, is just very unimpressive in my humble opinion. So for him to put that Emmy in the background or the foreground of his where he was sitting to be on his live with Ms. Banfield, I was just like, how tacky, At least try to make it look like you're covering it up or something. I was not here when she I'm always afraid I'm gonna hack her name. Shanika, is that how you say it? Shan Shanquella. Shanquella Robinson. I can call her Ms. Robinson. I really get frustrated with myself when I can't pronounce people's names right. It's bad enough when I can't enunciate a word properly, but when it's someone's name, and then especially if that someone is deceased, to me that's just hideous. You got to say people's names right. So I just call her Ms. Robinson. I'm pretty sure that's her last name. If you guys want to confirm, that would be much appreciated. Um, was heard about, but not top news. Horrible. Surprised they did a real autopsy on her. Autopsies Our autopsies are not, though. Um, I just finished watching Lana's new video she did last night. She went through and did the research and is taking down the interview. Well, Harsh had taken down the interview with Justin, or not, he didn't do an interview. He played parts of his video. Um, and that was like a day before he was on Truth and Transparency. And I think that Harsh took down the video, but then he put it back up, I think. And yeah, it's looking like Justin is probably a joke. I mean, not a funny one. Um, I mean, a lot of what he said was extremely far-fetched, right? But some of what he said seemed potentially plausible. Um, yeah, what a freaking mess, it's just a dumpster fire shite show, and it's so uncool to do that. It's so entirely uncool, and I don't appreciate content creators that are going to exploit that. I mean, it's one thing to try to get the information out there, it's another thing to try to exploit it. It's really messed up. I think it just, like, makes the entire platform of YouTube look like trash. It makes the true crime community look absurd, in my humble opinion. So, how many people do that? It's the standard operation in the world of social media. Um, oh, you mean like get some big, loud, splashy piece of trash video to try to get a bunch of views and then just delete it or put it private. And yeah, then you can put it behind your paywall, right? Shanquella is how you say it. Oh, Pixie Knickers, you're the bomb. Shanquella. Yeah, I had figured that out a while ago, but it's been a while since I've tried to say it. Man, it is so hard. Shanquella. That is great. Thanks, Pixie Knickers. Yes. Dang. Lana is very disappointed in what he has done. And Annie, YouTube, it's extremely sad. Thank you. It's extremely sad. Um, yeah. Yeah, it is extremely hideous what happened in Mexico. And yeah, I haven't kept up if there's been news in the last day on that case. I haven't heard about it. You need to read my previous comment about your previous comment is about the criminal defendant. How many people do that? It's the standard operation in the world of social media. Now I get it. Thank you, GOP Nick. I thought you were talking about YouTube, but right, you're talking about just social media, liking things and taking screenshots of things. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, thanks again, GOP Nick. That's very spot on. And GOP Nick says, I don't know this case at all. And you're probably talking about the Shanquella Robinson in Mexico. So she's a 25-year-old woman that traveled to Cabo with some friends, and they murdered her the day that they got there, and they videotaped themselves like beating her up, and this is insane. And then they said that she died of alcohol poisoning, and the whole thing is just hideous. And then, of course, because it's out of the country, it's even worse than if it happened in Truckee or Moscow. Good morning, Sifa. Alistair Grant says, with Justin naming names, where does he stand with the law in America? Very good question. And yeah, maybe he is not in America, so he thinks he can get away with that. I don't know. Yeah, right. It's pretty nuts. Yes, sad, but many foreigners drowned, OD and such down here. Mexico tries to have only good news. Right, Annie Ruler. People, it amazes me how people don't think of their safety when they're doing the worldwide travel. And especially us Americans, because we're so used to the safety that we have in our country and being able to call 911 and having police, medics, firefighters, anywhere and everywhere we go, when you go to other countries, it's different. And especially if you're not from that country, but just to know the lay of the land. I mean, literally, really, even traveling in the United States of America, you need to know these things. You need to know what's going on wherever you are. It's really important to stay in touch. It's absolutely horrific. Those responsible need to be arrested. So sick what they did. It's insane. I mean, her poor family, her parents, my goodness. It's really out of control. And yeah, sadly, like Annie Ruler said, it's not the first time these things happen. So, yeah, you hear about things happening on cruise ships and people disappearing off of cruise ships. And some of those, I'm sure, are self unalivings, accidental, some intentional, some are other unalivings, intentional, maybe accidental. It's just a mess. And when you're out there on the ocean, you know, there's pretty much no law. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? So let's get into it, you guys. Yeah, this whole thing with the Papa Roger profile and whoever that is, whoever made that Papa Roger profile, in my opinion, really was trying to make it look like the criminal defendant made it. And same with the inside looking. So there were a bunch of profiles, and you know, it's just really important to know that even these profiles that we've heard these things about that say that they're the criminal defendant's profiles, they, most of them, probably 90% of them are not, if at least 90%, right? Um, Pixie Knicker says, I will never get on a cruise ship. Yeah, the worst one I heard about, I think it was about 10 or 15 years ago. It was a newlywed couple. The guy was an heir to a liquor store, I think. Very well-to-do family from New England, I think. And then it was like maybe 8 days after that they were married that he went overboard, and it looked like he was beat up and unalived by some dudes that his wife had been flirting with. It was an out of control situation. They had videotape of her making out with one of the guys in the hallway at like 3 in the morning. And then I think the overboard thing happened at like 4 in the morning. But there were surveillance cameras of all of them interacting at the bar with lots of flirtations and dancing. And then she went to her salon appointment, like there was like a spa appointment for massage therapy or something like that the next morning, maybe around 11-ish. And it was supposed to be like bride and groom side by side. And she showed up without him and just like played it off like it was nothing. So I don't know if she ever got arrested. Not that I ever heard of. I tried following the case over the years, if you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a pretty heinous one. It's one of the worst. I can look it up and then make a community post or put it in the comments. I haven't looked it up in a while. That's what I thought all along. It's very weird how things appear and disappear so easily on social media concerning these tragedies. Yeah. And I mean, I honestly feel like I'm trying to fight for justice and truth on this social media platform. And I don't think that that's impossible. I think it is possible. But when there's so much trash going on the platform, it makes it a lot more challenging, I feel like. That's my opinion. I don't remember that story, Jazz. Pixie Knickers. It's so sad. A very, very handsome couple. The wife was just like your beautiful little blondie, and the husband, tall, dark, and handsome. And yeah, there was like a big red stuff splatter on some canvas right below the balcony. Um, but his remains were never recovered. And, his family had piles of cash, so they were able to make a lot of headway, but I doubt anybody ever got arrested. and probably wasn't his newlywed wife. It's hard to call her that did it, but she was certainly a part of it, an accomplice. So, you would think she would be arrested. You would think the guys that are on the videotape would be arrested, but whatever happened in their estate room, and then he went over the balcony. And so, of course, they said that he was drunk and he fell over. That it was his own doing, right? Of course, it was. Um, Let's see. Speaking of newlyweds, what about the newly married couple that went to Mexico for their honeymoon and the man ended up dead? The woman is screaming red rum. I saw something about that, but I didn't really take it in, Squirrely Burger. There was another case I wanted to share with you guys. Something that was really, really sad that happened at Niagara Falls. Did you guys hear about this? I don't think it's been resolved yet, and I think it happened about a month ago, like the end of January, I believe. It was a 34-year-old mom and her 5-year-old boy from Chicago who were visiting Niagara Falls with the husband father. And apparently, police were saying that it was not an accident and that she had like gone over a railing with the boy. She was holding the boy. They fell 90 feet. She did not survive, but he did, the little boy. So, I think witnesses said that the parents were arguing right before this happened. So it's looking pretty sketchy. And when I heard about that a few days ago, I was just beside myself and I was surprised that I hadn't heard about it sooner. Niagara Falls is a really cool place, and it's one of these places like the Golden Gate Bridge where there's a lot of people with self harm ideation that will go there and possibly act on their self harm. So it's almost like they could have police just parked there to, keep people from doing crazy things. It's kind of like that on the Golden Gate Bridge, too. They have like 911 phones every 20 feet, probably. And if any taxi cab is asked to drive a customer to Golden Gate Bridge and drop them off, then the taxi cab is required to call the police immediately. I mean, it's just so crazy. And these places that are so beautiful that people go to take in the natural wonder. And, I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge, there's a lot of natural wonder, but then there's the man-made wonder. And Niagara Falls is just like one of the most spectacular. I mean, dang, I haven't been there in a while. I would love to take my whole family there. We were actually about to go when COVID happened 3 years ago. So we were gonna make that drive for, spring break, and then the COVID lockdown happened, and I was like, "Well, let's just go anyway." Thank goodness we didn't, not because we probably would have been on lockdown in upstate New York. And now you have to have a passport to get to the Canadian part, which you pretty much have to go to the Canadian part to get a really good view of the falls. So you can see it from not Canada, but anyway. Um Yeah, so the one that happened in Mexico, I'm not real familiar with. Both of them are lawyers for California. Squirrely Burger, you're speaking of the newlyweds that went to Mexico for their honeymoon, and the man ended up deceased, and the woman is screaming red rum. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in Mexico. I mean, we all know that, but even in these expensive resorts that are supposed to be safer, um, yeah, you gotta be so freaking careful. Anyway, another case that I wanted to talk with you guys about, and this was one that, oh, J is for Justice. I really like her channel. Um, she is the only one that I've seen that's talked about this guy, this disgusting ex-police sergeant, Dan Hargraves. In 2018, he was a sergeant for the Pullman PD, he was arrested for violating an 18-year-old freshman of Wazoo in the most personal kind of way. And I mean, very much like a Brock Turner type of situation. Like he picked her up because she was inebriated, I think. And so he should have been getting her home safely, but he did a Brock Turner type of thing instead. And she pressed charges. And the saddest part is that it went to trial a year later in 2019. It was a hung jury, and the case was a mistrial. So that was almost 4 years ago now, and I don't think that it's ever been retried or that there's any plans to retry it. And it's just horrifying. It's absolutely disgusting. But what concerns me more is think about who his supervisor was. This Sergeant Dan Hargraves, Pullman PD 5 years ago would be Police Chief Jenkins, Gary Jenkins, the guy who is now the police chief at Wazoo. And just all that mess with like Matthew Kurt, I think is how you say his name, Kurht, or is it Kuhrt? Anyway, that Sergeant Matthew Kurt that got in a lot of trouble 3 years ago when somebody complained about his sexcapades, as I call them. And then his supervisors, the police chief, the assistant chief, and the captain, disciplined him. They investigated it and disciplined him by not letting him have overtime for an entire summer. And then about a year ago now, Wazoo says that it was brought to their attention. And so they put the entire command staff on a paid administrative leave. And then they hired Gary Jenkins after he resigned from Pullman, which was, I think he resigned from Pullman in about June. They didn't let their command staff go until around July, and then they hired Gary Jenkins. So he's getting his pension from his retirement because he had 47 years experience with law enforcement when he retired from Pullman PD. And then he's getting his full-time salary at Wazoo. And Wazoo pays crazy high salaries, you guys. You can go online and look. It looks to me like the sergeants at Wazoo probably make more than what Gary Jenkins was making as the police chief of Pullman. But Pullman is, half the size of the college population by itself. They usually count the whole college population with the town when they give you the population of the town. So it's very confusing. But anyway, Gary Jenkins has a history of, in my opinion, potentially allowing these sergeants to run amok. And he was the one that was in charge when they finally were able to get rid of Matthew Kurt or get him to resign. And Matthew Kurt only resigned November 1st of 2022, 12 days before this whole thing happened. So this whole thing at the Moscow for the Idaho 4, the horrific unaliving of these 4 beautiful students. So yeah, if you could follow all that, it gets really, really confusing to try to follow all of it. And anyway, Dan Hargraves, that was the one that I was saying that that J is for Justice did a good 2-hour show, I think, about it. And I think it was cool because she discovered that case around the same time that I discovered it. I'm sure we were both just Googling these types of things, and that one came up, looking for nefarious situations in the police departments, the local PDs. And there's a lot of them, you guys. That one just like rose to the top of my Google search. And then I started talking about it. I didn't have the guy's name because I was just like, I don't want to get distracted with more names. And then I did get his name, Dan Hargraves. So what a horrible scumbag, and he was also 49 years old when he did this to this 18-year-old. Um, the disgusting, sergeant with Wazoo, Matthew Kurt, was also 49 years old when he was finally resigned. It's just disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, to think that these people are making these huge salaries, especially the sergeants for Wazoo that are making six-figure salaries, and they're just running around like it's a freaking frat party, and they're like wild animals off leash, right? Really, really disgusting. So you guys quit commenting. What's up? Are you still here? So yeah, what else do you guys want to talk about today? I have been recommending to you Subconscious Mouth. Casper West was one that you guys recommended to me that I really like. And then there's also this new small channel called The Hard Truth. I think she's got less than 500 subs, and I really like her. She's really good. I want to say all three of these, Subconscious Mouth, Casper West, and Hard Truth, are all new in the last few months. But they seem to have a lot of really good insight. And, I'm always looking for insight, and you guys have a lot of great insight too. I was wondering what additional education you were interested in pursuing. Bluestone, ow, you're nice to ask. Screw education. No, I'm just kidding. I do like to kind of make fun of it because it's kind of like the ivory tower. The degree that I had applied for was at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. And I did find out that I got passed over, which is fine. Screw them. But the degree was in international peace strategies. So I'm still interested in studying international peace strategies, and I'll probably apply to some other schools. That particular program at Notre Dame used to have like a acceptance rate that was comparable with Ivy Leagues. I mean, it is an Ivy League school, I think. It's like right there on the cusp of Ivy League. But anyway, Ivy League schools usually have like a 3 to 5% acceptance rate, like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. It's like impossible to get in. And this particular department is like that at Notre Dame, but it's even worse. It's like I want to say like 2% chance of getting in. So like 1 out of 50 applicants, and they have 12 spots. And I want to say they had like 500 applicants for 12 spots. So they didn't pick me. Their loss, right? But yeah, that's peace studies, international peace strategies with an emphasis in psychology. So, it ties right in with my YouTube channel, really. We were just intently listening to you. Oh, Pixie Knickers, you're so cute. So yeah, it's like I said, I do make fun of the ivory tower. I've spent, in some ways, I feel like entirely too much of my life in education. And at the same time, I love education. Like I'm a lifetime learner, but I don't think that all that goes on in the ivory tower. The ivory tower can be pretty far removed from reality in many, many situations. So, I was excited to attempt to get into this program that is so hard to get into. It's part of the Kroc Institute at Notre Dame. So Kroc is KROC, and the Kroc Institute is very well funded because it's actually McDonald's. It's like the original owners of like the Ma and Pa McDonald's. So the Kroc Institute funds this whole international peace strategies program that's very, very phenomenal. And the part that I was really interested in was domestic violence, and specifically domestic violence towards women that were pregnant. So Shanann Watts and too many others. And also police reform. So that's kind of my thing. And let's see, you might want to move to a country that actually promotes peace strategies, LOL, but not. Oh, Bluestone, you're so nice to say that. Thanks. Sometimes I feel like I'm smart, but mostly I feel like I'm smart when I can admit that I'm not really smart. So, like, there's so much ambiguity and counterintuitiveness. And I think it's like an Einstein quote, like, the more you learn, the more you know that you'll never know. And when I came across that quote, I was like, damn straight. That's pretty much it. Like, the more you learn, the more you learn that there's so much more to learn. So, it's why it's so important to keep an open mind. Oh, Sifa says, sorry, I would say more, but I'm at work. Well, that's cool. And yeah, my mod is at work too. So she's there behind the scenes. So, you guys, we are already just over half an hour, and I'm kind of thinking about keeping this one short just because I've been trying to condense them, and I just feel like it's like the direction that I'm going is to kind of shore things up, but I don't want to cut you guys short. So if there's anything you want to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. And let me check my notes to see what else I wanted to include in this one. Um, yeah, I'm just really discouraged by how easy it is for law enforcement to cover things up. Like when you look at the Kylie Rodney case, and I did want to discuss the Kylie Rodney case for a few minutes, you guys, because just in the last 24 or 48 hours, both CNY and Kevin Neese put out videos with their theories of pretty much exactly what they think happened to Kylie Rodney. And I think that they're both really sharp. I know that they both have done a ton of research. They've worked their tails off, and their opinions are very different. Um, and I would agree with both of them. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you guys haven't caught up with CNY and Kevin Neese in the last couple of days, maybe to check them out. I think Kevin Neese's was like 40 minutes long. And he basically says that he thinks something happened with the young Hamburglar dude. And CNY thinks that something happened with the woman who wishes everybody would just mind their own business and understand that there's honor in silence. So, I my opinion is that to some degree they're probably both accurate, and I just think that the whole thing was it's just like this small town secret. Like everybody there knows what happened and nobody's going to say anything. Then you got Sammy the Unicorn. You guys, please go to my community page. I just put the Sammy Unicorn video on my community page last night. I think I imagined that I had done that like the day that Crime and Crochet, or is it what's your channel called? Yeah, Crime and Crochet or my hyper focus. The day she made that video, I thought that I put it on my community page, but I didn't. So I realized that I hadn't put it up last night, and I put it up, and it's just so freaking cute and funny. And like I always say, I find it very uplifting to laugh in these really, really sad situations. And I had already watched that unicorn video a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, but I watched the whole thing again last night, and it's just, like, such a treat. And one of the commenters in the community thread said something that just nailed it. It's like, by hearing just the words without her facial expressions, it makes you hear it differently. I mean, it's so absurd. Everything that came out of that girl's mouth was so absurd. And then it brings to mind that whole thing with the interview room when those professionals did like a rundown of how they just were like validating that Sammy was legit and that everything she said in that freaking Tony Dodge interview was legit. I never watched that video. Everybody was talking about it, but I was like, I just can't watch it. I'd probably like throw up. Um, so now you guys are commenting lots and I got to keep up. Where are you? Now that you mention DV to pregnant women, there's an 11-year-old missing person case I saw, and a boyfriend's surname is Westfall that gave me I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, that whole Jägermeister, yuck. And yeah, pregnant is what Kevin Neese believes that Ms. Kylie might have been at the time of her demise. So I found that pretty fascinating. You know, like I said, I think that both CNY and Kevin Neese really know what they're talking about. They've done so much legwork with that case. I really give them a shout out, and Squirrels on Fire and the whole Squirrel Girl crew and CCTV. A lot of these channels have just kicked butt with that case. And I'm so glad that they're still at it. I mean, I really appreciate it because I just think it's so important. I would be devastated if people weren't pursuing that. Been meaning to ask you, what is a mod? So a moderator is just somebody who helps keep the trolls from invading. It's ridiculous. You know, I mean, the trolls invading do a lot for your channel because they give you more views and comments and controversy. So it's sort of like you know, the negative attention is better than no attention, and there's no such thing as bad publicity. So a lot of people don't block their trolls. They just like, you know, eat them for lunch basically. Um, Personally, I just don't want to deal with them. They're just a waste of time. They get you off track. And so that's what the mods do, is they help keep them at bay, keep them away. And so Miss Amir Westfall's this case in Northern California. Yeah, and then there was that whole thing with Kim Westfall, who I believe is the name of Jägermeister's mother. And there was a Kim Westfall who started this sanctuary, Uncaged, for women or people escaping being trafficked. And they have like a sanctuary in Georgia and one in Russia. And it looks like it's the same Kimberly Westfall, but I'm not 100% sure that it is. I tried to do a bunch of research with that, as I know other folks did too. And then there was a Kimberly Westfall that was sharing a post office box with, oh, what is his name? Joseph Horwitz or Horvath, who owned the house that Ashley from Trinity Backus's case, the house that Trinity was at the last night of her life. This Joseph Horvath or Horowitz, I want to say Horvath, shared a post office box with a Kimberly Westfall in Tahoe. And that was CNY, I believe, that discovered that. So I always want to give credit where credit's due. But man, just a freaking mess. Like, so what's up with this Joseph Horvath or Horowitz and Kimberly Westfall? And why do they have this post office box? And then there were ties to Hawaii, which, you know, all that is fine. Like, that's all perfectly legal. But then when you have Westfall's ex-girlfriend pass and under such suspicious circumstances, and then you have Trinity Backus pass under such extenuating suspicious circumstances. And what drives me nuts is when the police say there's nothing suspicious about it. It's like, you have a 16-year-old that's deceased. How do you call that not suspicious? That's suspicious all by itself. Come on. Be logical. The gaslighting is just so out of control. So out of control. So let me catch up with you guys and get signed off here. Good morning. Ahmad is a moderator who helps keep chat in order, almost like a babysitter in a way. Oh, I love that. That's hilarious. A babysitter. Well, and just dropping links and stuff too. So, you know, kind of like a school teacher. Yeah. I'm wondering if the cobalt mine that just opened after they didn't clean up their first is involved. I'm so confused, Rachel Smith. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think that while their opinions are different, they are very close. Squirrely Burger, yeah, talking about CNY and Kevin Neese. And like I was saying yesterday with Harsh Reality and his opinion of Justin being that he's either accurate, he's insane, or there was a third thing, right? And probably all the above, right? There's probably a little bit of accuracy. There's probably at least some mental illness. And then what was that third thing? Being played. Like we're all being played. We're all being gaslit. This is just that's where I get sick of the cases and fed up with the whole YouTube platform. But I feel like this platform can do a lot of good. It has so much potential because it is so immediate and it hits so many people. And it's, just like social media, it's kind of the new town hall. It can be extremely positive, but it can turn on a dime and just be a shit show. Absolute crap. It's what you make of it. I can't remember which state, but I will go back and check my library and see. Did Justin Dude have Dylan talk with him any place? I have not seen any place. Right. I don't think that there's any reality to that. I think that was just like, again, it's like when you say, oh, well, this thing is about to happen. It's like, well, why are you talking about it before it happens? Like, let it happen and then talk about it. So whenever somebody says this thing is about to happen, there's about to be a big bust, there's about to be this or that. That's always a red flag to me. That's always like, yeah, right. We'll see. And my biggest thing, you guys, that I noticed with Justin's channel is where it has at JRod Speaks. Did you guys notice that? Next to the little icon that's like his photograph, or not a photograph, it's a avatar of him, like a cartoon, and he's got a little winky eye, and then it says at JRod Speaks. So let's see. No trolls allowed, Pixie Knickers said. I'm also glad that CCTV is still active for Kylie Rodney. Absolutely. And she lives right there. So yeah, it's a very dangerous game. Bluestone says, how do you become a mod? So the content creator can activate people to become mods or deactivate them if, depending on the circumstances. So most content creators have a handful of mods, and yeah. And many content creators are mods for other channels too. Kimberly and Westfall, Sifa's got this going on. Sifa, in your opinion, is it the same Kimberly Westfall? Because I think they have different middle names, but they're both 53 years old, or they were 6 months ago when I was looking into it, 4 months ago. And they both look like the same person. Very beautiful brown hair, almost like Sandra Bullock, actually. Very, very beautiful woman. A creator has to make you a mod. Pregnant and analyzed by who? The same person Trinity was pregnant and on a live with? I'm so confused, Squirrely Burger. Let me read that again. Pregnant and analyzed by who? The same person Trinity pregnant and on a live with? I don't know if I'm getting my wires crossed or you're getting your wires crossed or we crossed wires together. So the analyzing I was talking about was on the interview room, and it was a couple of like professionals. I think it was the interview room, who analyzed. They did like a 1 hour plus show analyzing the half-hour interview with Sammy and Tony Dodge, and they were like, "Yeah, her story totally checks out. Yeah." And I was just like, when it was all over the internet, I was just like, I'm not even going to watch it because I will just, like, my head will just explode. Like, we know she's full of crap. So this was somebody hired by the Hamburglar or something. It was just more of the gaslighting, the professional freaking gaslighters, the catfish crew, as I like to call them. And I wish I knew who I can give credit for the catfish crew. I want to say it was our 22 cents that came up with that. But whoever it was, I really like it. And I don't think I came up with it. Um, so let's see. Unalived Squirrely Burger. Harsh, I think, isn't buying Justin's storytelling. That says a lot. Harsh is a good guy, so I'm trusting his decision. Right. And I agree with you on that 100%. I, the fact that he showed it to me says that there might be something to it. And yeah. Sound like a syndicate to me. Yes. Miss Amir Zaza. I totally agree with that. And wonder if that's the same Kim. The inserted her phone calling in this. Squirrely Burger. Kim's a pretty common name, but yeah, the Kim that inserted her phone calls with the Drunk Turkey Show and some other stuff. To me, it sounded a lot like MC. So, in so many ways, pretty much the whole profile, everything about it, even right down to the one girl, one boy, both in college. I think that's the same thing for MC from the Kylie Rodney case. And they have different last names. Sifa, you're talking about the Westfall, Kimberly Westfalls? Because I know they have different middle names. I don't know if you're talking about something else. Let's get all caught up and sign off, you guys. I get the feeling Justin is defense assistant, even though he was Papa Roger with insider info. Yeah. Yeah, what a freaking mess. I mean, it just really, really muddies the water. It really just taints everything. And that's exactly what Annie Ruler said. Jury tainted Justin is, in my opinion. Mental health is a serious issue in the US for sure, actually, probably everywhere. I think a lot due to lockdowns and being isolated. And, I'm sure that the internet plays into that too, especially because during lockdown and isolation, a lot of people turned to being online more. There's like a big lawsuit going on right now with, is it TikTok or Instagram? So, like, if you feel like you were addicted, that you could get in on this class action lawsuit. And yeah, interesting, huh? Justin has bushy eyebrows. Rhonda. So, what I noticed just yesterday was that the this was on the Crime Circus. Um, Inside looking, the profile picture with the eyeball, and it looks like the big bump, like in the criminal defendant's profile. But that the eyebrow on that inside looking profile picture is like shaved. It's like shaved like over to here. It's pretty weird. Um, so yeah, I don't know. The bushy eyebrowed killer. Who has a cobalt mine? Squirrely Burger wants to know. The noodlers, I think, like catfishers. Yes, the noodlers. That's funny. Jarvis opened a cobalt mine in Salmon, Idaho. There used to be a mine there in the 80s. It was toxic. Cobalt mining is big money. Interesting. Very, very interesting. The two Kims, yes, the three Kims, like just like the Nates, just like the Jacks, just like all of this, right? I forgot to tell you, Jazz, that I told my husband about your tiny iron board, and he asked, "What does she do? Iron Barbie clothes?" I should have said, "Yeah." That's hilarious. That's really cute. That's so funny. I'm going to say it, Squirrely Burger. What are you going to say? Again, and this time I'm going to edit LOL. Do you think that KR was pregnant by the same person that Trinity Backus was? Both of them were unalived. I never got any information about Trinity Backus being pregnant. If you want to share more about that before I sign off. Um, but yeah, I mean, it seems like whenever there's a woman that passes away, the question of pregnancy always comes up. Like even with John with JFK Jr. and his wife Carolyn Bissett, then they're like, "Oh, was she pregnant?" Or like when Princess Diana died, "Oh, was she pregnant?" It's like it's just always this like knee-jerk reaction. So I've never heard about Trinity Backus possibly being pregnant. Um, and yeah, I would think that that's a bit of a stretch, but you just never know. Truth is always stranger than fiction, and you just can't make this stuff up. Um, so let's see. Oh, yeah, if you're still here, Lana is saying she can't find any records of Brent living in that apartment address. I am so curious about this Brent Kopaka. Wow. Autopsy for KR said she had menstrual device in vajayjay. May have been to throw us off. My gut says no, though. Right, Annie Ruler and Kevin Neese discusses that. Like he thought that they specifically said that to throw everybody off. She says she has been looking for any type of mail or anything that would connect him to the address, and she cannot. Only 9 likes. People hit that thumbs up button, please. I believe she also had an IUD. Right, Sifa. I thought so too, that for Kylie Rodney, that there was an IUD mentioned and a menstrual cup. Diva Cup, I think is what they're called. But anyway, let's go ahead and sign off for today, you guys. And thank you so much for joining me. Take care of yourself. Have a really good rest of your day. Make sure you get your exercise, your nutrition, your hydration. Eat high protein, high veggie count, lower fruit count, and just be kind to yourself, be kind to other people. Rest, put your feet up whenever you can, and meditate and pray. Eat, pray, love, and treat everyone around you with kindness and respect. Make sure everyone around you treats you with kindness and respect. And let's see, what do we got here? Trinity had posted on social media she was going to have a woo baby. Are you kidding me? That has got to be a fake account, don't you think? That is bizarre, Squirrely Burger. I'm not doubting you. I'm doubting the post. Yeah, I've never heard nothing about that. That is just out there. That is wild. Have a beautiful and blessed day, Jazz, and everyone in chat. Have a great day. And thanks. Have to watch on replay. Yes, you guys, thanks so much for being here. Peace out. Sending you light, sending you love. I'll be doing a short recap this afternoon and then a live tomorrow. I'm going to schedule it for 9:15. Thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.